From the convict who thought he could cheat the court by escaping, to the convict who nearly faced harsh consequences trying to flee, and the convict who thought he could quietly cheat the court but faced serious consequences. Stay tuned as we uncover the stories of these 5 convicts who tried to cheat the court. Christopher Rudd thought he was clever enough to evade the court, but his escape attempt almost cost him his. He was in court charged with failing to comply with court-ordered treatment. This court appearance is where defendants come before the judge to hear their charges and decide whether they plead guilty or not guilty. Rudd is patiently awaiting his turn, restrained with handcuffs, in a courtroom filled with several officers keeping a close watch on the defendants. As a lawyer approached the officers at the door and engaged in conversation with them, Rudd took notice. When the lawyer left the courtroom accompanied by 2 officers, only 1 officer remained. However, even that officer soon exited the court. The only security personnel left in the court was the bailiff, who became distracted when a woman approached and engaged him in conversation. Rudd seizes what he sees as the perfect opportunity to evade the court without being noticed, and he takes his chance. Rudd is swiftly pursued by the bailiff, but as he exits the court, he jumps. Even while restrained with handcuffs. From the security camera's perspective at ground level, an officer spots someone and instinctively tries to catch the defendant but narrowly misses him. Officers quickly rush to assist Rudd, who is dead but appears responsive. Paramedics arrive swiftly and rush him to a nearby hospital where it's determined he has a broken leg, pelvis, and a fractured skull. Back in the courtroom, the judge maintained order and composure among everyone present. It seems like Rudd got off with probation, which is a relief considering the severity of his injuries. This case can be compared to the next one, as both individuals believe that was their way out. This is Rashad Hawkins, who hoped to avoid a sentence by fleeing the court. He is charged with failure to pay child support. However, as he was about to be detained, he fled from the court. Hawkins seizes his opportunity and runs out of the court. Seeing no immediate escape route, he drops down from the second floor to the ground floor. While a deputy follows him in a leisurely pursuit, Hawkins hops over the second floor railing, swiftly lowers himself down, and lands on a potted plant below. Meanwhile, the deputy contemplates his options, debating whether it's worth jumping down as well, but ultimately decides against it. It seems Hawkins managed to jump down without injuring himself, as he quickly bounced back up and ran away while clutching his papers. Back on the second floor, more deputies arrived to assess the situation, but none of them were willing to pursue and apprehend Hawkins. In addition to the outstanding warrant from Tennessee, he has been charged with third-degree criminal trespassing, 1st-degree fleeing, evading police on foot, third-degree violence on an officer, resisting arrest, and possession of illegal plants. From initially being charged with failure to pay child support, Hawkins now faces additional charges. He has been charged with criminal trespassing, resisting arrest, and third-degree violence on an officer. As wild as this case is, the next one is simply outrageous in terms of its absurdity. This is Joey Watts, who naively believed he could evade the court by quietly walking out and running thereafter without facing any consequences. He is in court charged with aggravated assault and felony possession of a firearm, allegedly for threatening a woman at his home with a firearm. In court, there are no officers present. Instead, there is Watts' attorney, a couple of women, and a prosecutor. Watts was found guilty on the assault charge and is facing a prison sentence. However, while the jury was deliberating his second charge, he chose to flee from the sentencing to avoid prison. He quietly walked out of the court without anyone noticing except for a man in yellow, who then tapped another person and both got up as Watts reached the door and exited the courtroom. Watts exits the courtroom and casually heads down the stairwell to avoid suspicion. Unfollowed and unnoticed, he made it down to the ground floor. There, he gestured towards something or someone and then proceeded towards the main entrance. As he reaches the main entrance, he picks up pace and starts running. Outside, he quickly takes off, not taking any chances of being noticed. Shortly after, as the jury returns with a verdict on his weapon charges, they realize he's not there. However, this doesn't stop them from finding him guilty of the weapon charge as well. Unfortunately for Watts, the police found him the day after his escape. During their investigation, they discovered that he wasn't alone in his escape attempt, as 3 other people were arrested and charged with aiding his escape. Shockingly, one of them was in court at the time, and it turned out to be Jesse Watts, Joey's brother. Jesse Watts received a sentence of 6 years in prison for his involvement. Joey, on the other hand, wasn't charged specifically for the escape since his sentence was already severe. He was sentenced to 36 years in prison with the possibility of parole, 10 years for aggravated assault, and 26 years for felony possession of a firearm. While this individual acted alone, the next case involves 2 suspects. This 17-year-old attempted to evade court proceedings by fleeing from the court. He was in court for stealing a mobile phone and received a 21-week jail sentence. And this is Callum Fintner, the 21-year-old friend of the 17-year-old who is about to help him escape by pressing the button on the wall, which allows the door to open so his friend can attempt to escape. After Fintner pressed the button, the door swung open, and the 17-year-old dashed out, pursued by 4 court officers trying to apprehend him. Fintner goes from being an alleged co-conspirator to a full-on cheerleader, encouraging his friend as he flees. The 17-year-old convict continued to run and managed to escape the hallway, darting through the checkpoint while still being pursued by 4 court officers. Even his friend Fintner quietly followed behind. It's clear the convict is quite fast, as the officers struggle to keep up with him. As the officers reach the outside, they appeared to collectively decide that it wasn't worth pursuing him any further. However, one dedicated officer refused to give up and continued to track the convict, albeit at a slower pace. Fintner is clearly still following them and catches up, heading down the stairs toward the convict and celebrate that they succeeded. The 17-year-old convict was caught 2 days later, resulting in his sentence being extended by 6 months for attempting to escape from court. As for Fintner, he chose to plead guilty to aiding and abetting his friend's escape and received a 3-month jail sentence. The next case will shock you. This is Deborah Redden, present in court for a sentencing hearing related to his conviction of attempted battery with substantial bodily harm. It began with the judge offering the individual an opportunity to speak before proceeding with the sentencing.
Mr. Redden, is there anything you want to say on your own behalf before I pronounce sentence?
So basically, I would like to tell the courts everyone here, like, based on my criminal history, like, I feel that, like, I shouldn't be sent to prison for a second time.
As Redden attempted to explain why he shouldn't go to jail again, the effort backfired.
Have you looked at your criminal history? Have you looked at your criminal history?
I actually just, I looked at it.
I mean, you lived it, I suppose.
I just looked at it, yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know,
3 felonies, a gross, 9 misdemeanors, multiple DVs. Got a lot going on, sir.
Yeah, I just figured
As the judge grew frustrated with his claims of being a changed man and his insistence that he shouldn't go to jail, she began reading his previous charges aloud.
Battery on a protected person, robberies, attempt home invasion.
Redden persisted, continuing to assert that he is a changed man and even telling the judge that she needs to do what's right.
I just figured I'm in a better place in my mind, my mental health, I have a support system.
Redden went as far as to attribute his past actions to mental health issues.
And the reason behind every single domestic violence, I've been dealing with mental health, and I didn't know that I was dealing with mental health. And they put me in mental health court, and I still didn't know that I had a mental health problem until it was August 2022 when I realized I have a problem with this. And having a dictionary and understanding myself, getting to know myself a little better.
Attempting to justify his crime by claiming he's a changed man, including securing a job and contributing to the community.
I just got hired as a teamster for, the union, making $20 an hour.
Redden even acknowledged to the judge that he understands the need for his sentencing, if that's deemed necessary. but he urged her to consider his claim of being a changed man in her decision.
You know, I feel like I shouldn't be sent to prison, but if it's appropriate for you, then you have to do what you have to do. But I figure that, you know, if I'm in a better place in my life, I'm not doing drugs, I'm not out there committing crimes now, you know, and I feel like I should be given a shot because I'm in a better place than I was.
His attorney also informed the judge that Redden was planning to obtain a high school diploma, as he did not currently have one. However, the judge was focused on proceeding with the sentencing.
I appreciate that, but I think it's time that he gets a taste of something else because I just can't with that history.
It was at this point that Redden attacked the judge.
I just can't with that history. In accordance with the laws of the state of Nevada, this court...
Redden managed to leap over the desk and even grab the judge by her hair, but officers were quick to intervene. They swiftly jumped in and successfully brought the situation under control. As Redden was restrained by the officers, he continued to scream at the judge. The judge sustained some injuries from the altercation but was not hospitalized. Redden was later in court again and faced the same judge, this time with a spit hood covering his head and his hands chained. Additionally, 8 officers were present and ready to intervene should he attempt any disruptive actions. The judge sentenced him to 90 months in prison for attempted battery, allocating 48 months for the original sentence and the additional time for his attack on the judge and officers.